It's interview time, and I'm here today with Sharon Howley. Sharon, good day to you.
Hello, Rob.
Sharon, for people that haven't come across you, just give us a little 60-second overview of your career to date and what brings you to here.
So I started my career way back when as a pub manager, actually. So working for Green King.
Okay.
And I was very young doing that, so it wasn't quite right for me. So then I moved into retail on an area manager training program. Got out of retail and went into account management, actually, at Vodafone. And then from there, I've gone into account management and subscriptions and sales with global data. So more specifically, looking after business to business, magazine and publication sales and, subscriptions.
And for people that don't know global data, give us a flavour of the size of that organisation and the pies that it has its little tentacles in.
So we cover an awful lot of industries. So we're B2B, media, publishing. Data is a big part of what we do. So we cover lots of industries. So pharmaceutical, energy, and then obviously we have the accountancy titles. The New Statesman is part of our group. So an awful lot of industries, out there that we cover.
And data's a big thing, isn't it, these days? How has data changed over the years?
So really, so we have, we've got hundreds actually of analysts who feed into our intelligence centres. So they will focus on specific business areas. So we've got cards and payments, for example, pharmaceutical, as I mentioned before. And so the levels that we can go to and the granular data that you can get from those is quite amazing, actually. Not something that I do in my part of the business, but that's a big part of what global data do.
Yeah, and you say that they're in the accounting and finance world. What's your view of the accounting profession from the outside and what it's gone through over the last few years? Because we're in challenging times, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone through massive change, going back, God, when did all this thing start? 2020, 2 years, how long ago? It was very, it's a global organization, isn't it? Global industry. You'd see people flying all over the world, people here, there, and everywhere. Face-to-face meetings was key. Everybody met everybody regularly. That was a big focus of, the industry, obviously really people focused. And that just died a death overnight, just stopped. Everyone was grounded. Everyone was stuck in their offices or at home. And it's like, how is this going to work? What are we going to do? How are we going to manage our clients, our internal relationships, within our organizations? And so it has been a massive, turnaround. And I think in some ways it's been better in that, personally for myself, I speak to accountancy firms all over the world. And before I'd pick up the phone and chat with them. But then this thing arrived called Zoom. And I got to actually see them face to face, people who I'd never normally have the opportunity to meet with. So in that respect, think it's been fantastic. I think the industry has probably engaged with their clients much more than they probably ever did before, in a different way, which has been, fantastic. I know I've been engaging with my clients, which are the accounting industry, much more, which is, great.
And when you talk to accountants, what kind of conversations are you generally having with them?
So we talk about the things that are kind of keeping them up at night. They're the key things that, we talk about. So what is it that is keeping them up at night? What are their key issues that are preventing them from growing their business, or the issues that worry them, or the issues that they want to know more about? So some of the key things that we've been speaking about at the moment are recruitment, retention, how do you keep people once you've got them? The whole issue of succession planning seems to be quite a hot topic. And that's, doesn't matter which country you're in, that could be, anywhere globally. That's, that seems to be a bit of an issue. We talk about ESG. Obviously, that's quite a hot topic across, our organization, Global Data. We're focusing on that across all the industries that we cover, because it's so key to, every industry. So looking at those types of issues. We've also M&A seems to be something that's coming up now. People now we've got to grips with the pandemic. Hopefully we've got through that. They're now looking what's going to happen, in the next year, the next 12 months, how are they going to grow, what types of organizations are they acquiring. So we're talking to lots of firms. Multidisciplinary seems to be one of the biggies, the way the industry is moving. So we talk around those types of things. And then obviously there's always the usual things. So regulation, how that's impacting you in your country. Because although it's different for every geography and different for every country, there's so many takeaways that we can learn from all of these different geographies and what they're doing.
So when you ask them these questions, what do you do with the answers?
So quite often these are the topics that we write about. So International Accounting Bulletin and The Accountant, this is the stuff that we write about.
Okay,
so
that's your bread and butter.
Absolutely. So this is the stuff we'll interview a CEO, find out, what are they doing with ESG? What are they implementing? What's their strategy? We'll talk to a firm in India, for example, and what regulation have you got? How's that impacting you? How's that affecting your audits? What impact is that having on you and your organization? And then we publish those. And from, our readership, reading those other articles, hopefully they can gain insight, they can get knowledge about what other people are doing in the industry just to overcome all of these issues. Might not be your country, might not be your regulation, but quite often it's relevant to know, oh, they're doing that, that's how that's impacting them, and it's that learning from each other, I think,
you bring up some great points there, Sharon. Yeah. One, that we are in an international world, so what's happening in India might not ordinarily have impacted what's happening, say, in North America, but these days we need to be globally informed, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that I could have a conversation with somebody in India, could then have a conversation with somebody in South America, and they've got the same issues, the same business issues. How do I recruit people? How do I keep, my staff? What do I do? And, to have those same issues and then draw together, through the publication about here's some solutions and, people suggesting this is what I have done. Yeah. That's where we can all hopefully learn from each other.
And where would accounting professionals go if they didn't have your publications? Where would they get this information? Is it easily available out there, or is it tough to find?
Yeah, so it depends on where you are. So some of the less developed accountancy geographies, such as perhaps South America, or, the more developing countries, so a lot of the African countries, it isn't as readily available as you perhaps would expect. Right. Here in the UK, I think we take it for granted that we have access to all of this information and this data, and we do probably, to a large extent, it's out there. But for some of these countries, they have their professional bodies, so they have their local regulatory bodies who give them information, but it'll be very much based around their country. It's this kind of general global overview that is missing a lot of the time for a lot of people. So, I mean, we have a really strong following in South America, for example, Africa. They're kind of hungry for this knowledge, I suppose. But on the flip side of it, the information that we can get from them is fantastic because they are emerging and they're growing. They can sometimes be more innovative and, learn from the mistakes of everyone else and avoid all the pitfalls by, adopting regulation, that actually works, for example. So,
and there's a sense, isn't there, of professional firms wanting to peer over the garden wall, as it were, and say, look, we're having tough times here. We've got opportunities that we need help with. How are other firms doing it?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think we can all learn from that. And, it's not even what other firms are doing. It's, who's saying what, what did they say? I think it is that nosiness factor, which, is fantastic. For example, we've done a Women in Leadership series in our International Accounting Bulletin. And we've had some fantastic interviews from us, really senior leaders in the industry, being really open and candid about, their career path, how they've got to where they are, the pitfalls, and just to know that and be, for up and coming accountants, for example, to read that and have that insight, I think is, invaluable, really. It's fascinating for them to see what other people are doing. So yeah, it's absolutely that peering over the garden fence. I think there's an awful lot of that goes on.
And you don't just talk to the accounting firms, you have a very special relationship with the associations and networks and alliances that serve the accounting profession, don't you? Talk to us a
Yeah,
bit about that.
absolutely. So through our rankings, so the International Accounting Bulletin has been around for just over 40 years. The Accountant has been around for 140 years. And through the rankings that we run in International Accounting Bulletin, so we rank the networks and associations by fee data. And we cover 38 countries each year. And then we do a world survey. And all of our amazing, partners that we have at the networks and the associations feed us that data. So that's proprietary data directly from them. And I think because they do that, and because obviously we publish it, we have this amazing, relationship with them. They use that data, day in, day out. They use it at board level. So they'll use it for their strategy, for their planning. They use it in tenders, proposals, all that type of thing. I mean, there's certain countries, so Mexico being one, that if you're not ranked in IAB, you can't tender for certain types of work. So it's really important and quite integral to the industry. And because of that, we do have this very special relationship with all of those networks and associations.
Yeah.
And, we really value that. That's, a fantastic place for us to be in, that they invest in us so heavily.
I was going to ask you, why are these kind of awards and rankings and surveys important? Because there's a lot of work goes into submitting the data to you, and then you have to do all the crunching your end, and it comes out with some kind of league table. And some might think, well, so what if we're 16 or 17? But it matters, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And it has like I said, it has a commercial impact. So which is why we spend so much time on trying to get it right and being impartial and doing, the best job we can. An awful lot of work goes in behind the scenes to make sure that is published as accurately as we can and fairly as we can, because it does have this commercial impact. If you are number 10 and you drop a place to number 11,
right,
and you go to tender for business, it could be that for government work, maybe in that, jurisdiction, you have to be in a top 10.
Yeah.
So that could have a massive impact on you. It could be that you no longer can bid for certain types of contracts. It's so interesting when I talk to some of our networks and associations about that commercial aspect of it. Just how much of an impact it could have. So,
and in the same way that you talk to accountants about the challenges that they've got, what do the leaders of associations and networks and alliances tell you about the challenges that they're having?
Yeah. So some of the big stuff that they're doing at the moment is tech, so technology. So there's an awful lot of initiatives going on there. So rolling out workshops, seminars, making sure that their member firms have the information that they need to make the right decisions. It's a very noisy environment, the tech environment. There's a lot of choice out there, and it's a big investment, and it's a big investment for some small firms who, they don't have the capacity to make the wrong decision. So to them, that's a big push that they've been doing at the moment, having workshops and engaging with suppliers to, get them the right information. Recruitment is a big thing as well,
You mean recruiting new members to the association or the network?
Yeah, definitely.
Firms, right.
Yeah, growing. How are we going to grow our business? Where do we get our new members from? Where do we get our new members from? It's a big challenge to them.
And presumably you put on events, you put on live events under the umbrella of your brand, and they are doing the same. And the whole face-to-face game has changed, as you said earlier. So what are you learning about events, the return to it, what's working, what isn't working in the new world?
Yeah, so we did a couple of virtual events, and they went really well, actually. I was quite impressed because, like I said earlier on, when we were chatting, it was such a big change, overnight, to go from everybody flying here, there, and everywhere all over the world to be grounded. I was quite unsure how it would go, because I know, the industry is not massive. There's a lot of key players who know each other. They like to meet up, they like
Yeah.
to have that face to face. So I was a bit hesitant as to how that would work. But what it did do, which I think was fantastic, is it gave the opportunity for many more delegates to actually attend the
Yes.
events. Those that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do so got the chance to actually be part of the event. An example of that is we do a World Survey launch event. We've done it on and off for a few years. And the one we did just before COVID hit was a physical event. So obviously we had CEOs from the UK, because, people wouldn't fly in for that at that time. But then the following year, we did a virtual one, and it was fantastic to have all our CEOs from all over the world there, and they were saying, oh, please do this next year. This is amazing because we can be involved now. So,
And you've got one of your big flagship events coming up, the Digital Accounting Forum.
yeah.
I'm involved with that as a judge and a chair. How important is that event? Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so it's been running for years now. We've been doing it for a long, long time. I've been here for 11 years and it's been going strong that whole time.
Which is a long time in this game,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. And it seems to be a bit of a marker in the diary, hopefully. But no, it's good. The awards are always very well received. It's a good way to showcase, your achievements. Why not shout about all the hard work you've been doing? And nominate, yourselves for a Network of the Year award. I think it's just a fantastic forum to be able to do that and just celebrate the successes, in the industry.
But you make it more than an awards day. You have the forum during the day, don't you, to bring people together and teach them stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Focus on digital, which is fantastic. Yeah, we get some speakers from all different types of organizations. It's a really good platform to just hear the latest, topics, what's happening, the latest developments, hear from, some of our partners, what they're doing, in terms of the tech space, what's new, what's coming up.
And if you weren't doing what you were doing, where would they go to for this information? Do the regulatory bodies, the professional associations have a responsibility to share stuff like this? Or does it come down to the vendors who sometimes have their own agenda, or these agnostic events that invite everybody along? You have a unique role in this, don't you?
Yeah, I think we do. I think because we are independent, I think that's our real strength. We're not affiliated to any particular professional body. The professional bodies do a fantastic job of training, teaching. They have obviously amazing, information that they get out there. But I think where we're just slightly different is that we are independent. So we could have ACCA, ICAEW, very all in one room, all giving their opinion.
The professional associations are available, but yes.
Yeah, we get a real good mix, I would say, of people all together in one room. Competitors would be in the same room together talking about, what they've done, how they're making, an accountant's life better, easier. And I think it's through case studies, real events, how they've implemented things, how they've rolled things out, to show proper ROI, really.
How important, Sharon, is it that an accounting firm belongs to some kind of network or alliance or association?
Well, interesting question. To some it wouldn't matter. I speak to lots. They have varying relationships with their network or associate. Some are completely, aligned and work, as though they're one organization. Some are more loosely, affiliated. I think it depends. I think nowadays with global, trade, borders cut down, I think it's important to be able to offer your clients, particularly if you have international clients, those additional services that perhaps you can't do yourself. Having that referral option, I think is key, particularly now. being able to differentiate yourself. We talked a lot, haven't we, through COVID about being trusted advisors and all that type of thing. And it's just about opening up your offering, what you can give to your clients, and not just in the country that you're based.
And with your publications, you obviously have a subscription basis for this. You run a number of supplements as well, don't you? That are, I guess, added extras, added value to your members. Talk to us a bit about those.
Yeah, so we are subscription based. So to read all of the fantastic features and analysis that we do, you need to be a subscriber. And obviously to get the rankings, you need to subscribe. But one thing we've never done really much of before is sponsorship. And that's what the supplements are all about, really, is giving our tech vendors, for example, all of our suppliers to the industry, the opportunity to promote their services, as you'd expect. And I think that came out of a need, actually, talking to, as I mentioned before, networks, associations, as well as the member firms. There was a real need there for them to understand the tech landscape and what was going on. And so we thought, oh, okay, they want to know what's happening. They want case studies. They want, good quality, content. So we
want
thought
examples of best practice, don't they? And
absolutely.
who knows what best practice is in these challenging times.
Exactly.
It changes all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So we thought we'll, have these supplements, which we're planning to run next year, which can be a platform to showcase that.
Right.
So it's for, like you say, tech providers to, be able to advertise, but not just a standard ad, although there is room for that as well, but to really start to talk about the issues and how, they could help accountants overcome those.
Yeah. This has been great, Sharon, getting an insight into your world. When you look at the media and the publications out there available to accountants, is there a sense of overload, or does everything fit nicely into a box and some accountants go to that, some go to the other? Tell us a bit about the space.
I think, there is an awful lot of information out there.
Right.
I think
and accountants are busy, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think what we do, so we are global, but we pick, I think, the key topics. We try to be rounded in what we offer, in terms of we don't concentrate just on one geography. And actually, considering we're UK based, UK is probably the area we maybe cover least, I would say. We tend to cover, other countries, to be honest. And I think that's where perhaps, for some of our firms, there isn't that broad overview, to give them a feel for what's happening. They can read our publication, see that, tech is an issue, and then they can take from that what they want, and then go on to do their own research, look at their own country, see who's, what is on offer locally. But I think it's just to give them an overview of what's happening, what's being talked about, who's doing what. I think that peep over the garden fence thing is quite key, actually.
I get that. And you're right, they need to be informed. And you aim yourselves particularly at the more senior people in the profession, don't you? The leaders, the ones that are making the decisions, because they need the evidence on which to base strategy and decisions. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, we always aim at, the CEOs, senior partners. But in addition to that, and I touched on it earlier, I think because we are quite a broad magazine, I think there's something in there probably for everybody in the firm. So, the aspiring new recruit could hopefully read one of our Women in Leadership interviews and feel inspired by that. I think, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That's where I want my career to do, to head, that's where I'm aiming, and just get some inspiration from that.
Yeah.
As well as, the tech teams say, oh, actually, this is interesting. They've implemented this over at X, Y, and Z network. That sounds interesting. I'm going to look into that a bit more.
And if people want to find out more about what you're doing, Sharon, get in touch with you, what's a good way for them to do that?
So they can go to the website. So on our website, you can register. So you can register to get a free weekly newsletter, and that will just give you a flavour for the types of topics that we're covering and some of the news. So that's internationalaccountingbulletin.com, and then we've got accountant-online.com, so you can register there.
And that's slightly different audience, is it?
Slightly. So yeah, International Accounting Bulletin is the business of being an accountant, shall we say.
Okay.
And the accountant is more about being an accountant, so an accountant in practice. But I say accountant in practice, that can be an accountancy professional, be it CFO, management accountant, whatever you are in that profession.
Great. And in closing, Sharon, talk to us about what's coming up over the next few years for the profession. You've said some trends that are current at the moment. We know we're in a time of great flux and change. Accountants are not well known as a breed for their ability to change quickly and be agile and adapt, but they've shown themselves to be capable of it when it's needed.
Yeah.
What's coming up over the next few years, do you think?
I think we're going to see a lot more M&A. I think mergers and acquisitions are going to be key. So in the past few years, I think we've seen more and larger mergers. So that's
why is that, do you think?
I think it's this trying to offer a more rounded solution to your clients, not just being an accountancy firm anymore, offering consultancy. Law obviously is the natural partner to the accountancy firms. Lots of the larger associations are multidisciplinary, and some of them are quite a 50-50 split. And talking to them, I think we're going to see lots more organizations joining together to give them that strength across more disciplines, so they can offer more to their clients. Consultancy, although that took a big hit in the pandemic, I just think that will grow and grow. And I think this whole trusted advisor thing, I think that will develop and grow into something, more. I think we can see, more in that space happening, definitely.
Well, these are exciting times. And Sharon Howley of Global Data, the International Accounting Bulletin and the Accountant Online. It's been great to talk to you today. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Lovely to speak to you.
You've been watching or listening to the Accounting Influencers podcast featuring hosts Rob Brown and Martin Bissett, with key interviews, what's working in the accounting profession, and news from the accounting and fintech world that helps you do your jobs better. We go out to 144 countries, over 20,000 unique listeners with 100,000 downloads, and it is accredited for continued professional education and development. Thank you for tuning in.